kind of going back to right those two main SDR functions. So that was inbound. Now we're looking at outbound, right? So what are outbound SDRs really doing? As opposed to inbound SDRs that are just calling like warm, hot leads, outbound SDRs, your role is to go find people and convince them to sit down for a meeting, right? So let's say I get hired as an outbound SDR. I might get a list of like 100 to 1,000 accounts, right? Accounts meaning different companies. And my job is to call people at that company, connect with the decision makers, connect with people in C-suite to ultimately pitch them on the software, the service that my company has and what we're selling, and influence them, convince them, pitch our value to the point where they're interested enough to take a meeting with one of our account executives, right? So I'm going to do that through prospecting through LinkedIn, looking them up on their company website, understanding more about what their company does, tying all that to the value that my company brings to that industry, giving them a call, sending them an email, following up with them, ultimately to the point where I can get them to sit down on our calendar with my account executive. That's essentially the role of an outbound SDR. You're generating pipeline, right? So if I can convince a decision maker to sit down, they get interested in our product. We take them through an evaluation process. Maybe they end up buying for 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand. Maybe they don't. Either way, you're getting paid on being able to take a company, convince them to sit down and have a potential opportunity to make a sale.
Yeah, so if you work for a smaller company, like let's say it's like a 30-person tech startup, sometimes they'll combine the two roles where you're inbound and outbound, right? Obviously, the larger the organization, they'll have separate like a full team. Like when I was at LinkedIn Learning, there was 18 inbound folks and about 30 uh outbound folks, right? So, um, during the interview process, I would suggest for you to ask them like, hey, is this an inbound or an outbound SDR? That way you like setting expectations wise, you know what to expect as well, right? So just keep that in mind because that's good from a skill development standpoint. You want to think to yourself like, hey, like, do I want to get better at just like pounding the phones and learning how to hustle and that drive will, help me in any aspect of my life? Or would I prefer to be a little bit more like thoughtful and doing research and I mean they have pros and cons. I would say inbounds are usually quicker sale, like quicker opportunities where it might close within the next couple weeks if you get in if they're reaching out there's like an interest. Whereas outbound you might not get them at the right time if you get lucky, but those tend to be longer sales cycle, but they have higher upside as well, right? Let's say the average outbound opportunity leads to like $45,000 in revenue. The inbound, because, like most likely like a Walmart or like a Fortune 100 brand is less likely to fill out an inbound form. It is possible. It's just much less likely. Whereas like when I worked at Coach Hub, all the in out of the 100 inbounds that we received, like only 10 of them were like decent, actually large opportunities. Most of them are smaller, but those smaller ones can add up. So just for to keep in mind when they ask you about it.
Yeah.